How to Create a Glitch Monologues Season 32 Chapter 5. This is Season 32 of How to Create a Glitch in the Matrix Monologues Episode 5. In this episode, we will be talking about the potentiation of choice. Now, in the last episode and episode 2 of this season, we talked about how contingency to an object alters the flow of consciousness from one moment to the next. With this episode, I would like to approach the question of how. First off, reactive emotionality is fundamentally dualistic. It is paired. For every action there is a reaction. For every thesis an antithesis. Within the scope of this dialectical process, the pairing of action and reaction creates continuity between ourself and others. It produces integration. And since we know that integration prevents the witnessing of dissonant consensualities, this makes sense. And it makes sense because of what it implies about choice. For example, let's say you are outside smoking a cigarette. You decide to only smoke one, though occasionally you will smoke two in a row. Then, you go inside the house. You decide to have a coffee. Then you change your mind, and decide to have an energy drink, anyone but orange. You get to the fridge but instead, you choose the orange energy drink. Now, let's analyze this from the standpoint of dissonant consensualities. The first choice, that is, to smoke one cigarette or two cigarettes, is essentially a binary choice. That is, if indeed you choose one cigarette, then you are inhibiting the impulse to smoke until the next time you go outside. That is to say, you have created a dissonant consensuality where you smoked two cigarettes before going inside. Just a single dissonant consensuality. The next choice, to have a coffee, represents the inhibition of the impulse to have any other beverage in your home. You are inhibiting the impulse to have an energy drink as a class, water, tea and however many other drinks you have. Supposing for example you have 3 kinds of energy drink, coffee and tea as well as water available to drink. Thus, the choice to drink coffee inhibits the impulse to consume 5 other options. That is to say, through that choice you are creating 5 dissonant consensualities. Now, when you change your mind between the coffee and the energy drink, your mind phrased it as anyone but orange. This means whether you choose the first kind or second, there is only one inhibited flavor of energy drink, the orange drink. But, there is also above that choice, the option of tea or coffee or water. Thus, as you can see, choices produce a decision tree where on each level there are a set number of options which refer to inhibited impulses, each producing a dissonant consensuality. All of this is to say, that if our consciousness is reduced to reactive responses, our emotionality, then all choices become alternatives between dialectical options. It is only in going beyond dualism, beyond binary choices, that it becomes possible to see multiplicitous dissonant consensualities simultaneously. But more importantly, if we reduce each choice to dialectical opposites, we are essentially saying that we either do A or do B, where B is defined as not A. This means that we have already lumped together in our options all the potential dissonant consensualities created by the choice into a single dissonant space. Now, what does this have to do with how our consciousness transitions from one moment to the next? The answer is parsimony. Parsimony is the rule which governs the integration of dissonant consensualities into a consensual space. It juxtaposes 2 dialectical pathways, integrating each within a singular timeline. Since we know that our emotional, spatial orientation reflect reactive emotionality to specific objects, which is a product of a non-consensual space, it follows that non-consensual space is dualistic as well. Likewise, what this tells us is that all consensual dissonant spaces are comprised of is multiplicity, a departure from dualism, from binary negation. The creation of a deity which is immanent renders one a perpetual object. This objecthood translates into dualism, which prevents multiplicity. When reality is dualistic, when it is separated into binary dialectical options of A and not A, each option defines the other value as well as itself. When reality is multiplicitous, that is not the case. That is to say, that through parsimony dialectical options can be integrated without variation of the objects of consciousness. whereas, in the case of multiplicity, parsimony often leaves something out. The dialectical opposite of A is not B. It's B plus C plus D plus etc. In other words, existing in a dualistic world of integration or faith in some object deity, both restrict the potential worlds which may follow this moment to the highest degree, because parsimony need only integrate a single pairing of dissonant spaces. That's the end of the podcast for today. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment and subscribe.